Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Heat Wave. We've done it. We're all the way done. 32 teams, 32 days. We're on team 32. It is the Baltimore Ravens. Thank you so much for tapping in and listening. We hope that we prepared you for your drafts well. Go out there and draft well, young soldiers. But we have one more team to go. I am your host, the fantasy plug, Tim Petropolis, the editor-in-chief of BrotoFantasy.com and the Fantasy Football by Broto app, and I am joined by the king of this fantasy thing and the lead fantasy analyst for Broto Fantasy, Michael Petrop.
The Ravens.
How you feeling, man? We're here. We're at
Final
the end.
heat wave. It's been fun. I didn't make it onto all 32 teams, but I'm on the vast majority of them, and it's always fun recording the heat wave. It's a lot of work, but it's always fun.
I made every single one. I made every single one. It was a big one, and I loved it, and I love it. And you know why I love it? Because I got to see your face, and I got to see the face of this guy too, the Dynasty Don, the Fantasy Encyclopedia, and the lead writer at Broto. It is Mr. Matt Ward. What's good, bro?
What's going on, boys? Good to be back.
How you feeling?
Finally,
This is
32
your
teams.
first heat wave.
32nd days. Yeah, 32nd day of 32 teams. Man, it was a lot of fun. I mean, it didn't even really, grind till you die. Like, it was just a lot of fun, man.
Hell yeah, man. And speaking of grind till you die, if you're grinding out stats right now, if you are studying for your fantasy drafts, if you want to bring home that trophy, then the only app you need to be your own expert. We're going to have our opinions, but sometimes we're going to be wrong. We're humans. You need to make the decisions, and we give you every stat that we have possibly needed over our careers as fantasy analysts. This is Broto's sixth year. That's right, six years. I've been doing this since 2009. I don't even know how to say 2009. 2009. It's
2009.
They didn't say that. 2009. I've been doing this since 2009. It's been a long time. And this is the thing I'm most proud of. The Fantasy Football by Broto app. On the app, you get fantasy player cards, fantasy player grades, a Broto exclusive, usage charts, start-sit tools, player comps, consistency charts, who to draft tool, game logs, coaching tendencies, articles, podcast rankings, waivers, and just like I was telling you, every single stat you need to dominate. True throw value, true target value, true performance value, true air yards, and true matchup rankings. And this app right now is free. Absolutely free. Like really free. Not to 2022 version of free. The freest. There's no in-app purchases. There's no subscription. It's just free. And that's a big thank you to our patrons at patreon.com/BrotoFantasy. You're the reason why it's free, because of your subscriptions. We can't do this. We're subscription-based. So please go and subscribe in order for us to keep going. For as little as $3 a month, you get all these extras. Waiver Show, BRoto Leagues, cash game optimizers, cheat sheets, private team consultations, the greatest community in the world, the Discord, Michael's best ball guide. He advanced 37.5% of his teams last year, and he's teaching you how to do it. It's $15 retail, but you get it for free if you're a patron. And on top of that, you get in the Unlimited League. All flex, no positions, complete mayhem. And on top of that, we don't even know how many people are going to be in the league yet. And on top of that, we get to talk about it every single week. We are going to have part of the podcast dedicated to that league. So it's going to be like your own sports center for your fantasy league. I don't know about you guys, but if that was me and I had the opportunity to do that and I wasn't actually the one talking, like I would want to experience that. That would be a great thing to experience on my car ride back from work. Anyway, with that being said, let's get into these Baltimore Ravens. So the Ravens, John Harbaugh, right? This guy has been the coach forever. It's the same offense. Now, we can't really talk a lot about this offense because but they did last year because of a couple things. Number one, they're changing the scheme a little bit. They drafted a different center, and they're trying to go to a more zone blocking scheme with their new center. That is an interesting development. Number two, Lamar Jackson was hurt for a whole bunch of games. Number three, J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards were hurt. So they had to really shift everything around. They went from one of the best passing teams to one of the worst passing teams in the league. They lose their star receiver, Hollywood Brown, but they gain, I think it's a little bit of addition by subtraction there because they gain the center, right, with that draft pick to let them do other things. But they gain also back from injury J.K. Dobbins. So the Ravens are an interesting squad. With that being said, let's start at the quarterback because I feel like the quarterback is the guy on this team. I love Lamar Jackson this year. He's my quarterback 2. I would draft him over everyone, almost everyone, not named Josh Allen. I would draft him over everyone. I really don't have anything else to say. He gained 20 pounds. He's Lamar Jackson. His true throw value is up towards the top of the league every single year, and his legs make the difference. It's going to be his legs that put him over the top. They're going to run the ball with him this year. I think there's no doubt about it. I think they want to get back to what made them successful. They didn't have the most successful year last year, and it's because of the fact that everyone was hurt. A healthy season from Lamar Jackson, he's in the top 2 of these quarterbacks. Do you agree with me?
Yeah, Lamar Jackson, he is QB1 overall, squarely there in his range of outcomes. I don't think anyone would be surprised if Lamar Jackson returned to QB1 overall like he was the year he was first in true throw value as well when he had that monster season. At this point, like his ADP currently is QB4, which is fair, but at this point you get him in like the 5th round. I've said it previously, the market has fixed their valuations of quarterbacks. I think it used to be quarterbacks being drafted in like the 1st and 2nd round like 10 years ago, and obviously that was an error. And then people started before they realized that rushing quarterbacks are like a cheat code. They would go later in the draft, so those were clear options in like the 9th or 10th round, like Jalen Hurts even a couple of years ago. But now you get like the stud QBs in like the 4th, 5th, 6th round. And I really don't mind drafting those guys there. Like right now you can get Lamar Jackson in the 5th round. When you get to the 5th round, if you're looking at running backs, you're looking at guys like probably Josh Jacobs, Antonio Gibson, Elijah Mitchell types, or wide receivers like Amari Cooper, Darnell Mooney type guys. I'm super happy taking Lamar Jackson there. If I start, say, 3 wide receivers and a running back, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, even a high-end tight end, I'm cool with taking Lamar Jackson there because you get that elite QB play with the QB1 overall range of outcomes that you don't really find later on in fantasy drafts these days. Like the quarterback position, once you get past like the first 10 quarterbacks or so, it's unlikely that you get a guy who's going to end like top 3 like it used to be.
I feel like Trey Lance is the exception to that.
Yeah, but Trey Lance is going in the top 10
like
QBs
QB 11.
now.
Yeah.
Like he's even on Underdog, he's like QB 7.
The exception to it is Justin Fields. Like that really is the guy.
If Fields,
but that's the point. That there's always been one guy in that range every season. And I know it's not a Bears podcast, but there's always been one guy in that range every season that, randomly does it. And no, I don't think he's going to, but like that's the range that we're talking about, right? Like he's the only viable option after those top 10 that can really actually do what Jalen Hurts did, do what Lamar did when he broke out, right? He was like a 13th round pick the year that he won his fucking MVP.
Yeah. And like those days are gone now. Like Justin Fields, like you said, he has that because of the rushing ability. He fits that prototype. I'm not a Justin Fields big believer, but he does fit that prototype if you look closely enough through prescription glasses. But last year, Lamar Jackson, 21st overall finish in true throw value. Obviously not his best season. Was only 10th in points per game. The year prior to that was 11th and 8th, respectively. And then the year prior to that, we know his MVP season, 1st and 1st. If the Ravens are going to win, it's going to be because of Lamar Jackson being Lamar Jackson and carrying that team. So right now, at his ADP, I'd be very happy drafting Lamar Jackson.
Let's get into his weapons. Let's start with the tight end because for some reason, not for some reason, Mark Andrews is the fucking truth. I will tell you this. I am so pissed off of myself because I called Mark Andrews 2 seasons ago becoming like the guy taking over the throne from Travis Kelsey. I was a year early on it. And I'm really angry at myself because now you're not getting Mark Andrews at that value that you were getting him there. But I don't think there's any reason to think that he's not the number 1 target there. He's proven himself as someone who earns that target share. We were talking about that. We talk about that a lot on the heat wave. There's nothing not to like about Mark Andrews. There is a school of thought that says he was very much a beneficiary of the circumstances that the Ravens dealt with last year. The injuries at running back, the injuries at quarterback, those things kind of propelled him to that level. I think there's something to be said about that. But at this point, he's the number one receiver for a quarterback that has a valuable throw, and I'm trying to have that. I would be okay. I'd rather have Mark Andrews in the late second than I would have Kelsey in the late first. Like, that is not even a question. But if how are you feeling about Mark Andrews? Is he worth where he's going right now in the late second?
I think it's blasphemous that people think he was a product of the system and not a product of his insane talent. Usually on these podcasts and when I'm breaking down players, I'll like tell you their, finish in some analytics, or like, if they finished top 10, they finished 8th here. With Mark Andrews, I don't have enough time, so I'm just going to have to tell you where he finished first. He was first in targets, first in receptions, first in yards, first in air yards, first in touchdowns, first in deep targets, red zone targets, yards per team pass attempt, first in EPA, first in points per route, and first in points per target. You're telling me that's a product of the system that he played in, not the fact that he's the best tight end in the NFL? I think you're crazy. I think you're out of your damn mind. And he's going right now. You said you'd rather have him in the late second. Well, that's his ADP is 26th. And actually, they have it at like 2.5. Kyle Pitts is sneaking up draft boards again, man. He's doing the same thing he did last season. I think we have a little bit more confidence in it for touchdowns regress, but like I'd rather Mark Andrews over Kyle Pitts in that spot because they're basically the same cost at this point. You're taking Mark Andrews at 3.1 or 2.12 and Kyle Pitts at 3.3. Like that's right where their ADP is. So I'm smashing all of the Mark Andrews that I can get. If I have 1-1 and I start a draft with Christian McCaffrey, Justin Jefferson, Jonathan Taylor, and then on the turn, I get Mark Andrews. Like, thanks for the trophy.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say, man. There's really no overthinking it. There's no reason to overthink a guy that just finished. I like to go, oh, he's top 10 in all of these categories. He's first in every single predictive sticky stat that a guy's going to have a good season again. There was no like outlier of it. Like, it's not yards after the catch. It's not like an additional amount of touchdowns, right? Like, it's all just he was the best tight end in the NFL last season. And he's in his absolute prime. Like, he's 26 years old. Like, this guy is he already has overthrown Kelsey.
With a quarterback is in his prime as well.
Yeah, and the way I look at it, like Travis Kelsey on the Chiefs pod, I went in on how I'm actually a little concerned about Travis Kelsey this season because of his age and his downturn last season. I think I agree with you guys. I think their difference makes no sense in terms of where they're being drafted. Because Travis Kelsey, obviously, it's the vacated targets from Tyreek Hill. But we know that vacated targets aren't just going to all be funneled to Travis Kelsey, especially when he has so many targets up his sleeve already. And then Mark Andrews lost Hollywood Brown.
Marquise Brown.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hollywood Brown left. If we're going to talk about vacated targets there.
Mark Andrews and Hollywood Brown combined for the highest target share in the NFL. Period. The high teammate target share in the NFL with 53.3%. Mark Andrews, 26.6% of those targets. Like that, it's ridiculous. He outperformed his true throw value, which was tight end 17 because he was playing with Tyler Huntley. Like, he's just I've never seen an easier smash at a position than I have at Mark Andrews ADP in 2022.
Bro, this guy, yeah. Like you just said, this guy was just he's next level. He's my first ranked tight end. I think that he's a good pick where you're going, especially like Matt said, if you can get him on a turn, like you said, like Jonathan Taylor or CMC or like an Austin Eckler, and you can get him, and then you can turn around and still get a good wide receiver or a good RB2.
It's just
then you're in a good spot.
ADP.
Speaking of RBs, I will say this. The more the season gets closer, the higher and higher I'm on J.K. Dobbins. I think that you saw the Ravens were still in the bottom 5 in the league in running percentage. I mean, in the top 5, the bottom 5 in passing percentage, and they had the most passes ever. Like they led the league in running ratio so far and away that last year they were like, oh my God, we completely changed the offense, and they were still in the bottom 5 of passes. So they're going to run the ball. And the reason why I didn't like, J.K. Dobbins was because of Gus Edwards. That was why I didn't really like him. But J.K. Dobbins wants to get back on the field. He looks like he's going to get ready. He's there. He's doing, as of right now, he's doing live drills with the team. He probably won't play in the preseason. But if you can get J.K. Dobbins, if you're going, a seesaw running back or I don't know what they call a hero running back or something of that nature, like where you get like guys in the middle. I don't know but if you went wide receiver early, or if you've got a guy like Travis Kelsey, I think J.K. Dobbins going into the season as your RB2 is not something that I'm mad at. You might have to be patient. with him because he's coming back from injury. But there's going to be a time now when I could see like in week 6, like it's going to be a couple of hard weeks. And then I can see like in week 6, a situation where it's just like, oh, I don't even remember that because J.K. Dobbins has gotten me a touchdown in 3 straight weeks. And I think there's a possibility for that. So how are we feeling about the running back situation for the Ravens?
So for me, this might not be a popular opinion, but there is no way I draft a Ravens running back this season. I have very, very limited best ball exposure to the Ravens backfield, and I'm going to be avoiding them in redraft leagues. It's very simple. J.K. Dobbins just missed an entire season with the torn ACL. Gus Edwards, the same thing. Both are question marks even for the start of the season. They haven't even said if J.K. Dobbins is going to play week 1 yet, or he's probably going to be eased in if he does. The only person I listen to when it comes to these injury doctors is Virginia Zakis of Inside Injuries of The Athletic. She has very good insight into this stuff. She said based on Dobbins' injury history and past players who have gone through the same thing, you should expect Dobbins to struggle early on in the season, and she doesn't really expect anything more than a low-end RB2 type of season out of him based on just injuries in general. And look, Ravens running backs also don't catch passes. So what are we looking for here? A poor man's Nick Chubb, maybe, if he could stay healthy and revert back to form his rookie season. I have absolutely no interest in that. Lamar Jackson is going to steal rushing touchdowns. I'm not here saying J.K. Dobbins is going to be a wasted pick or he doesn't have upside. He has upside, but
Good,
I don't see a range of outcomes. I don't see a range of outcomes where he has RB1, top 12 upside.
I think that's fair.
He's not catching passes or
I think
scoring.
that's fair.
Lamar Jackson's going to steal some rushing touchdowns as well. So, why am I going to draft a guy who has injury concerns and a limited ceiling when I could draft other players who don't have that in the same area? I'll take Elijah Moore over J.K. Dobbins every single day of the week.
Probably get him around there. Matt, what do you think about J.K. Dobbins? Because
it's called the RB dead zone for a reason, right? And that's exactly where he's falling, is in that RB dead zone, and that's essentially where people reach on their hero running backs and they end up as RB2s. That's why it's called what it is, right? But I do want to speak positively about J.K. Dobbins, and I had the notes ready because I kind of felt in the back of my head that Mike wasn't going to be in on J.K. But man, and his rookie season was actually really, really impressive for the opportunity that he played with, because he finished with 11.2 points per game in his rookie season. He had 7 rushing touchdowns, 9 total touchdowns. He was first in yards per touch, 7th in fantasy points per opportunity, and was top 20 in fantasy points per opportunity, excluding touchdowns. So J.K. Dobbins is a poor man's Nick Chubb, and you shouldn't even say poor man's, because he's Nick Chubb. He can really put up those types of numbers, especially on this offense.
I'm just scared about the injury if he's going to be Nick Chubb or the poor man's. Yeah.
Again, to Mike, exactly, is there's the patience. And Tim said it, and Mike has a very good point of that, is I don't think you're going to get Nick Chubb until it might have been too late and you're going to wish you drafted Marquise Brown. Do you know what I mean? In the second half of the season, I think we're going to see a lot of J.K. Dobbins and people play revisionist history, being like, "Oh, I told you to take him. I told you," when the first 8 games led to RB 34 in points per game, right?
I could see that.
Could be a good buy low candidate halfway through the season.
I was going to say,
so.
This is this might sound weird, but what if you took J.K. Dobbins, and then as your running back 2, but then later in the 10th round, you got a guy like J.D. McKissick in your PPR league. You could maybe or Chase Edmonds, in a PPR league, and you don't necessarily need J.K. Dobbins off the bat. So I mean, there's if
there is a strategy, because I think there's upside in the second half of the season, but man, I'm just kind of agreeing with Mike, because it's not somebody that I'm super targeting in redraft leagues at that 5th, that RB dead zone, 5 and 6, right? So.
All right, so I got a confession. I waited till the last heat wave because Matt and I are in a dynasty league together, and Matt recently offered me a trade. And in this trade, Rashad Bateman is involved. So I may have waited until
I didn't even think about this.
I heard Matt's true.
Welcome to Tim's crazy sneakiness, Matt. This is what he does.
All right.
Listen, I have to use every single look. Matt is way too the gusto in which this man is selling this trade to me is making me nervous. So I want to know about his true Rashad Bateman feelings, because here's how I'm feeling about Rashad Bateman. I'm thinking that Marquise like you said, Marquise Brown got so many targets, so many. Rashad Bateman has the draft capital. He has the skill that we've seen. Is there any reason to believe that Rashad Bateman will not receive 140 targets this year? I think that
there's
there's a
definitely a lot of reason to
possibility,
believe he
right?
won't.
There's a possibility that happens 100%. So Matt, I can see you're agreeing with me here. Go for it.
I think that's a way too high of a target ceiling for a guy that's essentially playing like he's a rookie. Let's just put it there. He's a rookie this season. He missed 9 games due to a sports hernia surgery that was supposed to, like kept kind of causing issues. So he had to get it surgically repaired twice. There's questions of him still kind of healing and an injury like that popping back up because of how common they are. He was wide receiver 26 in true throw value and just had with just 8.6 point per game, which was wide receiver 53. So he yeah, that's not good. We like guys that can outperform their true target value because it means that like a DeAndre Hopkins is the perfect example. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. He's good enough to produce. Mark Andrews is a really, really good recency bias example. I just said earlier, like there's no way that he's just a product of that system. He's a product of his talent. As much as I like Rashad Bateman, he didn't really show anything to be positive. Like I was really going to try and spin the narrative and went micro glass looking through the analytics, and there was just nothing like super positive. A really low target rate, like meaning even when he was on the field, the routes that he was running, he wasn't earning targets on over Marquise. And yeah, there's a big role to fill, and he's the only person on the offense that can fill it. But like Marquise's ceiling took 4 years for him to hit with Lamar. Before it was that connection was really established and he could put up consistent numbers. And even then, he was still just wide receiver 17 overall. Right. So, yeah, we like Marquise because of how undervalued he is perennially for the target share that he gets. But if that's really the ceiling that you're expecting from Bateman, it's not something that you can be super, super excited about in his second year. Now, he's going off the board at wide receiver 38. So that's obviously lower than we've seen Marquise's value jump after that big target share. And if you expect, let's say, like, I don't want to give him the 25 that Marquise had because I really do think that's unlikely. I think it's more likely that those targets are spread out a little bit more in the backfield, that Mark Andrews can legitimately see a 30% ceiling. He was only like 10, 15 targets away from that in the first place. And you nailed it. They had the most pass attempts ever in a John Harbaugh offense and were 27th in pass attempts per game.
That's great.
So that's going to go back down.
Yeah.
And then even if we're giving Bateman a 20% target share, which is an astronomical leap for what he showed from his rookie season, and only had like a 12% target rate. So that's got to go up into the 20s as well. Like I'm going to tell you unbiasedly, I'm very much in on Bateman at risk and cost because everything that I just said, people seem to be wise on. He's wide receiver 38.
Yeah.
See,
So like, I think you can draft a guy that has wide receiver 1 role. I'm not sure about the opportunity, but he has a certified, guaranteed wide receiver 1 role because the backups, I don't even need to mention. I'll say the depth chart because these are the names on it. James Proche, Devin Duvernay, like end of list.
I think that's why I'm so in on Rashad Bateman because I think that while you mentioned
but he's not he's also not Michael Pittman trade.
Right. Well, I think yes, and while everything you said definitely I agree with, at the same time, like maybe 140 is crazy, and I said a crazy number. I said a crazy number on purpose, but it's let's say 115, right? If he's getting 115 targets, he is paying off like crazy at ADP, and
man.
And he has the role
at
and
ADP.
This is kind of like what Marquise Brown did. Like Marquise Brown had injury shortened seasons, didn't really look great, and then all of a sudden, pow, jumped on the screen last year because I think it was Lamar Jackson who
saying he didn't
improved
look
as a
great
passer.
is foolish. I mean,
well, that's what I was going to
not
say. I did want to interrupt that because Marquise, all he ever did was show flashes and then just get like his first game ever. He had 3 targets for 153 yards and 3 touchdowns. Like that was, or 2 touchdowns. That was his first time ever stepping on the field. Marquise always showed flashes, and Bateman showed great flashes as well. But I think it's really cool that you brought that up because I did a little bit of like ADP history.
Can I just like
okay?
The guy never had 1,000 yards in the season until last year. Like yes,
That's
he
fair.
showed flashes,
but he also
what
never
I'm
played more
saying
than
is-
15 games until last year. And then when
I
he
mean,
did,
neither-
it was like, holy shit.
neither is Bateman. I
Let
think
me
that
also
this is something that the Ravens do. This has been the Ravens' MO.
Also, we
Let me
shouldn't be
also-
sleeping on the fact that they're going to play 12 personnel all the time, and Isaiah Likely is a monster. I should have brought him up at the tight ends, but
let me add that Rashad Bateman on underdog is going like wide receiver 25. So drastic.
that's a little
difference from,
high
like,
for me. That's a
sleeper
little high
fantasy
for me.
most
I
thing.
agree.
Yeah,
I know
he's-
I'm singing the
he's
praises right now, but
increasing
25 is high.
Yeah, and like the
Well-
analytical guys who love Bateman, they just kind of like are glossing over his rookie season. I don't know if that should be.
It wasn't because
case.
I think they're doing it because he didn't meet the per game threshold, and because you said
Yeah.
the magic word, the analytical guys, he
Yeah.
didn't play enough games, so they just go, nope, like didn't happen, right? And man, I do want to reiterate, I think there's a lot of upside at ADP and redraft leagues, but his dynasty ADP is essentially reflecting best ball, and even then, it's just like the Ravens have never had a wide receiver one under John Harbaugh, like just never.
Rashad Bateman
Is he the most talented Ravens receiver that they've ever drafted? Maybe. And I will concede there for sure.
after his rookie season was put into play? His top comps: Tyler Boyd, Marquise Lee, Mike Thomas, the other Mike Thomas, Michael Crabtree,
Cincinnati.
and Christian Kirk. So definitely
So,
not
the
wide
a
receiver
Broto,
too.
yeah, the Broto comps we're not being kind to Mr. Bateman. All right, guys, that's it. It's over. We did
There's
it.
no other wide receivers to talk about.
No,
bold
we don't. I mean,
predictions. 10 bold predictions.
Oh yeah, that's right. Bold prediction time. How could I forget about that? All right, Lamar Jackson, quarterback 1, is my bold
Yeah.
prediction.
You son of a. Okay, I'll take you one further for our gambling listeners, and I've already got a prop on it. You could have got when he opened up, it was plus 2,500, and Derek Carr was plus 1,800. So Lamar Jackson MVP and Ravens over their win total of 9.5. Smash, smash, smash. Ravens
Win
win the
total is
AFC North
only
and Lamar
9.5.
MVP. Yeah, well, it's increased since, but that was when it opened,
Uh-huh.
when books opened on DraftKings. Yeah, it was just my favorite parlay I've ever made.
Listen, I hope you hit it, bro. Michael,
too.
what's your bold prediction?
I'll go with the Ravens backfield being a mess, similar to last season, where it wasn't like, oh, you have to start a Ravens running back. I think it's going to be an iffy situation back there.
Iffy. All right, let's take away the heat wave thing here. We're gonna come into a full screen. Everyone share the screen for our last. There you go. If you're watching on YouTube.com/Broto Fantasy, I gotta get into the middle of the screen right here. Hold on, let me get these this bold prediction off here, and let's get our Twitter handles up on this biznatch. All right, that's it. We did it. We brought you 32 teams in 32 days. We loved doing it every single step of the way. Michael, where can they find you?
At BrotoFF Mike.
You can find me at BrotoFF Tim, Matt,
At PsychWardFF.
at BrotoFF Jason, at BrotoFF Casanova, at Broto Fantasy, at FF by Broto. Follow them all, and you'll have you'll have our
Win a ship.
you'll win a hey, I like that. Our tagline for Broto was hashtag but only if you like winning. I think we gotta do that again, but only if you like
I
winning.
like be your own expert.
Yeah, I mean that's for the app.
That's
For
so
sure.
fact.
Yeah. So look, it was a wonderful experience. We're gonna be coming to you for more. One of the reasons why we did the heat wave earlier this year, we ended it on the 25th, was so that we can come to you with other podcasts like Sleepers, Busts, our hat hangers, guys that we are hanging our hats on for the season, mock drafts, and tons more. Me, Mike, Matt say goodbye. So long. Peace out.
Later.